Champa rice was first given to China by the Champa Kingdom, which is in modern-day Vietnam. The rice was a gift, part of the tribute system to China. What made this rice so neat was its quick maturing properties and the fact it was drought resistant. Not only that, the rice allowed 2 harvests per the 60-day growing season. Song dynasty officials were quick to give the rice to farmers across China. The rice was able to feed the rapidly growing population of China. While on the topic of China, I am sure some of you are wondering how the Chinese emperor ate. The Ming and the Qing emperors focused on a balanced meal. The emperor of China was still forced to abide by all the social practices of the predecessor, meaning Qing emperors often ate alone, not even with the company of family. They would only eat with others on special occasions. Menus carried the cook's name, so the meal could easily be reordered or have the culprit identified if something has happened to the food. Mostly the meals were just sophisticated versions of what was eaten in the rest of China. Dim sum refers to a meal made from a range of many small dishes. Dim sum originated from Canton, which is now known as Guangzhou. The meal actually started out quite small. At first, it was just tea served with two complementary food items. Over time, the tea house owners gradually started to add various other food items, which they called dim sums. Dim sum grew a lot in the 19th century. The meal is traditionally eaten nearer to the morning, but is now usually served at all times of the day. Dim sum has grown so complex that there are over 1,000 dishes that can be incorporated into it. Dim sum has incorporated many different flavors and styles from all over China. Some places use a unique serving method, Hong Kong usually, by serving the dishes from steamed carts. Even with all this complexity, the tea still remains an important part and is served alongside the dim sum. Dim sum is important since it allows a great amount of sharing and it is a great way to experience new types of food. The Republic of China has existed as a political entity since 1912. At one point, it was considered by the world to be the legitimate governing force of China. In fact, it briefly held the title as the largest country in terms of population. The country was even put on par with the other leaders of World War II, with Chiang Kai shek being part of the Big Four for the Republic's contribution in fighting the Japanese Empire. During these times of war, food became increasingly harder to come by. The humanitarian aid was bought up, and when it was redistributed, many bags of rice were also filled with gravel to make it seem like it was full, leading to people having to individually pick out the actual rice. Other than the rice, food became limited to flavorless sludge. Once the Japanese left, it was hoped that the golden decade of the Republic of China would start again. Instead, the corrupt leadership of the Republic and the fact that the civil war with the communist faction had started up again, the country spiraled deeper and deeper into hyperinflation. Workers demanded to be paid with food instead of the useless currency. The Kuomintang's unpopularity was its downfall. The communists won victory after victory, and the forces of the Generalissimo Chiang Kai-shek began abandoning him in every battle, as the soldiers became increasingly more demoralized. Seeing no other option, Chiang Kai-shek ordered his remaining forces to flee to the island of Taiwan. It is estimated that over 1 million people, including soldiers, politicians, and those loyal to the Republic of China, fled to Taiwan, a relatively small area compared to the vast size of China. One of those people who left for the island of Taiwan was Ping Sheng-kui, the personal chef to Chiang Kai-shek. That is where he first created the dish known as General Tso's chicken. He was responsible for a state banquet during the first Taiwanese Strait crisis. He wanted to make it special and decided to create a recipe with chicken, which he named after the General Zhao Zongtang, who also came from Hunan. In the 70s, Ping Sheng-kui opened a restaurant in New York City called Uncle Ping's Hunan Yun. From there, the dish became hugely popular in America, and many Chinese restaurants incorporated the meal into the recipe. However, not always the exact same as the original recipe. Ping Sheng-kui also opened restaurants in Taipei, which became the capital of the Republic of China. Later, he even opened up a chain in his hometown. Why is American Chinese food so different from actual food from China? Well, it starts with Chinese immigration to the United States. During the 1800s, many Chinese left their homes for a chance in the United States and ended up mostly settling down on the West Coast. They lost a significant amount of their traditional ingredients and had to develop new foods based on what ingredients were available in America, but would still appeal to their palates. Then the United States decided it wasn't racist enough and banned all immigration of Chinese to the country in 1882, making this new style of Chinese food to continue to grow independently from China. The United States would change its status on Chinese immigration to appease the Republic of China, since the U.S. was allied with them in World War II, to allow only 105 Chinese immigrants to the country per year. Eventually, these restrictions would be done away with by 1965. At this point, however, Chinese food had been blended with American culture, often leading to American Chinese food and North American Chinese food in general to become more sweet. One of the contributing reasons to why there are so many Chinese restaurants in America today is due to a 1915 court case that allowed special immigration privileges to restaurant owners. This is because owners of a particular business can be granted merchant status. Thus, entrepreneurs opened Chinese restaurants. However, even with this, it was still often difficult to bypass the stringent immigration laws put in place by the United States. The restaurants had to be a high class and would take a lot of money individual Chinese often didn't have, so they pooled their resources together to open restaurants and did business with Americans willing to testify in support of their immigration status. Investors also rotated managerial duties every year or so to create an unbroken succession of people who could acquire the legal merchant status. The Free China Relief Association, now known as the Chinese Association for Relief and Ensuing Services, was founded in Taipei, Taiwan in 1949 in order to deal with the massive immigration crisis in Taiwan, tasked with assisting the huge number of refugees fleeing to the island. The FCRA also tasked itself with aiding the people of mainland China. However, with the tense situation and the fact that the Civil War was not over, it was not as easy as just sending food over. So in order to get food, predominantly rice, to the mainland, it had to be airdropped from the sky. This was actually not as difficult as it would seem. The People's Republic of China did not yet possess an air force and were unable to stop the Republic of China from continuing bombardments of their coastal cities, or in this case, dropping food from the air. It also helped that the Republic of China usually did these flyovers at night. The process would take time to refine. At first, the bags of rice were 10 kilograms and possessed no parachute, meaning it probably crashed to the roofs of houses and caused an amount of damage. Over the time, the bags were made smaller, then weighing 5 kilograms and fitted with parachutes so they wouldn't crash down. The Chinese Communist Party was quick to crack down on this, not allowing their citizens to eat food from the ROC planes. In 1960, the People's Republic of China refused to accept 100 tons of rice from Taiwan. Chiang Kai-shek responded to this by saying that my government will take every possible risk to deliver relief supplies to the mainland on our own initiative, by land, sea, or air. The RSC continued this as well in 1976 after the Tangshan earthquake, sending relief aid and propaganda leaflets. Another interesting fact, in 1952, the FCRA was informed the British would end food rationing at the Rennie's Mill, which had become a place for the many refugees fleeing the new government in China. Britain was trying to disperse the refugees. In response, the FCRA stepped up, effectively creating an enclave of the Republic of China in Hong Kong, up until 1997, when the territory was handed to the People's Republic of China. In 1988, the FCRA donated 100,000 US dollars to the People's Republic of China to aid flood victims. China accepted. This instance was the first successful official transition of humanitarian aid by the Republic of China to the People's Republic of China. Well, that's all I got for today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.